Okay, so if you know the number of molecules, whether it's an individual count or a mole count, then you should be able to figure out how many atoms you have based on the formula of the molecule. So let's look at this question right here, which is asking you how many oxygen atoms are there in 2 moles of carbon dioxide molecules. Okay, so if you can count the number of molecules of CO2, can you count numbers of moles of O2? You can, because these are just proportional quantities. You have to realize that these numbers right here, the subscripts, are really counting numbers. This means basically, what does the formula CO2 mean in terms of counts? You say one CO2 molecule will contain 1 carbon and 2 oxygens, right? It's like saying one person has 1 nose and 2 eyes. Okay? Or you can also say, since these are actual counts, you can say 1 mole of CO2 corresponds to 1 mole of carbon, corresponds to 2 moles of oxygen. Okay? So whenever you have proportional quantities, the best approach to solving this problem is start by writing the formula, symbol for what you don't know, what you're looking for. You're looking for oxygen atoms, so I can say moles of oxygen. I take a ratio of that with something I know. What do I know in this question? Carbon dioxide. So I'm going to say moles of oxygen over moles of carbon dioxide is equal to what? What's the mole to mole ratio of oxygen to carbon dioxide? Okay, 2 moles oxygen for a mole of carbon dioxide. So you can say 2 moles oxygen for 1 mole of carbon dioxide. Okay, I know this, so all I have to do is solve for my unknown. So I can say moles of oxygen equals moles of CO2 times 2 moles of oxygen over 1 mole of CO2. Basically, what did I do here? Multiply both sides by moles of CO2, which I know, right? So moles of CO2 right here, and that ratio of subscripts, basically, ratio of the subscript for 1 mole of molecule would be your conversion factor. So I can say then that I'm given how many moles of CO2? 2 moles of CO2. Say 2.00 moles of CO2 times 2 moles oxygen for 1 mole of CO2. And so what you have here, you can cancel moles of CO2, and that gives you 2.0 times 2, so that gives you 4.00 moles of oxygen. Okay? Now, does that answer make sense? Think of it this way. It's like saying one person has 2 eyes, right? If you can count the number of people, you multiply it by 2 to get the number of eyes, right? So if I have the number of moles of CO2, I basically am multiplying it by the number of oxygen per every CO2. So in other words, if you know the molecule count, whether it's moles or whether it's big N, okay, an actual count or a mole count, you simply multiply it by the subscript for a particular atom in the molecule, then you can get how many atoms you have in that molecule. Okay?